Adoption of stablecoins is starting to happen very quickly, and many people are wondering why they need an asset like XRP when all the banks are just making their own stablecoins and using them. Why are we going to answer that question in this video? I think it will show a lot of you how impressive it is that the early creators of the XRP ledger saw how this industry would grow from the very beginning. I'm going to talk about stablecoin usage and how it actually helps XRP's use case a lot in this video. For this whole thing, make sure you stay, you won't want to miss it. As always, you love this station and help me a lot. Thank you to everyone who liked the movies and signed up for the channel. These two easy things help me a lot. You can also find my favorite exchange in the description of this movie. If you know of a good place to buy XRP, please let me know. Now that I've said that, I'll get right to it, and I hope you enjoy it. One of the reasons I'm so excited to make this video is that it's becoming very clear that stablecoin production will be one of the main uses for blockchain technology. It's important to understand what stablecoin production is all about. At its core, it's just an object that has been tokenized. It is fiat cash that has been turned into tokens. There are now a lot of different stablecoins you can get. You can get a stablecoin from a private company like Circle or Ripple. That's when people give these companies money, and those companies put a deposit on the blockchain that looks like that money. There will be more than one kind of stablecoin. You'll have things like a bank stablecoin, which is issued by a bank that takes your deposit and represents a deposit at that bank. Another type of stablecoin that you might see soon is a government-backed stablecoin, which is one that is released by the US government and is backed by a deposit you have with the US government. This means that fixed coins are really just a form of the value we already have in the world. Another important thing for people to know is that these stable coins aren't separate from other things. Based on blockchain technology, they are given out by a group. The blockchain technology we know of so far has never been used without some kind of native asset that is released by the chain itself. One interesting thing about it is that you can buy the chain itself. This is what makes it different from a stable coin. A stablecoin is always made by a central bank or comes back to someone on the other side of the transaction. You always put your trust in someone on the other side of the stablecoin. When you use Ripple's stablecoin, you know that Ripple will keep your dollars safe. Well, when you work with a bank, you trust that they will have your money. The government has your trust because you work with them. With XRP, you can't do that. And the reason is that no one is giving out XRP. This thing was made by the open XRP ledger. You can see right away that there is a difference between something like XRP and an issued object like a stablecoin. There are some things about XRP that make it different from almost every other product that has ever existed, and that is the fact that this product is not being issued by a single person. If you want to trade it without going through a third party, you can use a local decentralized asset that already exists. Being liquid. No one else owns that cash, so you don't need to depend on them. It's neutral and not controlled. This is money that anyone can get. Now I'm going to talk about some very interesting notes from Ripple about stablecoins. These notes will help you really understand what makes a stablecoin different from something like XRP. Now I'd like to talk about how the XRP system is built and why it was always made for stablecoins. This post by Anders Zell is the first thing I want to break down because I think it gives us a great idea of what we need to talk about here. It was explained that stablecoins will not take the place of XRP for a reason that most people do not know about. They were given important information in a letter from Ripple to the Australian government in 2023. There is a provider for stablecoins that makes it impossible for them to work with other payment networks. The people who made XRP and the company Ripple had a vision from the very beginning, and that vision hasn't changed. And that is that XRP would act as a link between different payment networks, not just assets. With XRP, you could settle the sale of a stock or something else. It could be used as a bridge asset or as the decentralized native liquidity. Full interoperability between the whole financial system will be possible in the future, and there needs to be a smooth way to link all of these different payment and value storage systems. However, stablecoins have an issuer, which makes the whole process much more complicated. This is because you can't just connect to a decentralized form of value transmission to use the local liquidity. In order for those two to work together, you need to work with a company, which is a centralized organization, and the issuer in the stablecoin case. This is how you should think about it. Imagine having to ask someone for permission every time you wanted to use the internet or build a website. That would be a huge problem if I owned the internet and decided that I only wanted XRP material on it. Of course, if you weren't making XRP content, you'd need to talk to me about how we can work something out. That's not how the internet works though, right? Anyone can go on the internet and post information. The internet provides the tools for this to happen, which is called the network effect. In essence, this is what makes using, XRP as this local liquidity different from using something like a stablecoin. When you use this stablecoin, you still have the person who issued the debt. There is still the person who is giving out the stablecoin. You won't be able to build out the complexity of the network effect you want if you don't have their agreement. XRP changes this totally because you don't have to ask anyone to use the XRP ledger's built-in liquidity, which is XRP. And the more you think about this, the clearer it becomes that stablecoins are just another form of the problem we've already made in the banking system. That's what this picture is too. In a sense, you have all of these different investments in currencies, and you can think of them as stablecoins, as just one more dot on the edge of this very complicated grid. It's just that you have more and more things that need to be linked so that they can be sold. That said, there isn't a center point for that liquidity. It's not going through a single place. This makes things very complicated because someone with JPY needs to connect to every other asset out there, and every other asset needs to connect to someone with JP. When XRP is in the middle, all of these different currencies can become liquid in XRP, which means they can become liquid in all other currencies on the network as well. And since there is no middleman, counterparty, or issuer, you're basically just dealing with neutral, decentralized free cash. This is the most important thing that XRP has to give. It's the ease with which you can connect to a system and then be open to everything else. It's the most important part of how the Ripple team came up with this whole idea. A point that Brad Garlinghouse made that a lot of people miss is that we are still in the very early stages of crypto. He says that Ripple is like Amazon when it only sold books. A big difference between how Ripple used XRP in the past and how they'll use it in the future is something that I think a lot of people think about. Is it smart for me to use XRP to pay someone $500.00 for a service? Maybe, maybe not, but if that person doesn't want XRP and I don't want to have to guess how volatile XRP will be during that payment cycle, I probably won't want to send them XRP, right? Sometimes I want to send them XRP because I have a lot of it, but they want USD. Other times I might have a totally different currency or something else that is very valuable to me, like Tesla stock, but they only want their own currency, right? Let's say that the peso is their money. The cool thing about XRP is that we don't have to agree on any of those things. We only need money to move between the payment corridors. Open up, which in this case means change Tesla stock for pesos. XRP can be used in the middle of a deal. We can both get what we need. XRP will be the way to buy and sell it, and everyone will be happy. It's possible that we didn't even need to talk about what medium or how we were going to make this transaction happen. The internet